Koshi, thank you. Let me start by again briefly introducing myself. May have already been introduced earlier this morning, but my name is Perry Charley. I am Navajo, um, full-blooded as far as I know, um, and I have lived off the reservation during the time I was obtaining my higher education into graduates and beyond that into doctoral. I've had a chance to go all over the world as a consultant and also as a professional scientist. But for the past 20, 30 years, I've moved back to the Navajo reservation, to the area close to where I grew up. I was not born in a hospital. I was born out there at the flanks of the Carrizo Mountain. The Carrizo Mountain, according to legend, represents one of our deities, talking God, and that is the head, the resting place of one of our deities, as our traditional people tell. So where I live is pretty much to traditional Navajos, a sacred area.
Mm.
The Charlies have been into ranching all of our lives. We have two large areas. The one where I live is around 30,700 acres of land that we use mainly for pastoral livestock, sheep and goats, and some horses. And as I said, that's near the base of the Carrizo Mountain in northeast Arizona. But I live 200 feet inside New Mexico. That's located about 12 miles due south of the Four Corners area, the Four Corners Monument. We also have an additional 35,000 acres in Red Mesa, Arizona, where we graze cattle and horses. That used to belong to my paternal grandmother. Upon her her death, prior to that, she willed a lot of that land to us. So we end up with two properties there which we maintain. So a little background in terms of traditional land use and rights. Historically, the Navajo people, we call ourselves the Na. We don't subscribe to notions of land ownership that today are associated with ideas of private property. The property system, in our view, is a system of land tenure that is foreign to the practices of the Navajo people. So Navajo people understand the concept of land control as opposed to ownership. We control what is going to happen. We control the plant lives, the agricultural, the ranching, the many things in there. How our environment will thrive. So we appreciate how different families put the land that they reside on to use. Prior to Anglo colonization and then in the mid 1800s, the Navajo people lived almost exclusively from and off the land. Navajo practices reflected what sociologists and anthropologists call substance economy, or economy based on providing for oneself and family through activities like farming, hunting, and the domestication of animals. When you go out there into the remote areas like where I live, it's very rugged and it's a beautiful scenery. That concept is still there. Our ties to the land is very important, the caring of the land. Our land is just not a place. It defines us, the Navajo, as a people. Land is a critical basis for life, the future of the Navajo Nation, and is the premises of tribal sovereignty. We have the Dene fundamental law, the fundamental law of the Dene. Within there are 4 esoteric laws that is, in some respect, is revealed, but most of the innermost connection to animals, to way of life, to land, to air, to water, is esoteric and not in nature, and it belongs to the practitioners, the medicine people. So that's the premises of what I'm saying is tribal sovereignty. So our laws are ingrained with this concept. The shape, the look, and the history of our land is central to our identity, our identity as the Dene people. We have different names for our lands, but they're all one and the same. The Neta, a lot of you probably heard that. The Nebekeya, which literally means, the Neta means Navajo Indian Reservation. The Nebekeya means the Navajo Nation, the land of the Dene, the people. So we refer to the same place. They're all one and the same. Some understand our land temporarily as in the 5th world, having left other lands to dwell in the present. That is the history that we have. So our connection is very important. Now, this is a concept that differs from Western concept of ownership. Foremost, carrying of land is a very important reference to Native American societies and their relationship with land, the animals, the plants, its use, their care, and their sustainability. These are predicated on events, on patterns, like weather, like time, on cycles and the happenings on the earth or the land that we coexist with. That's a key word, coexist. So we can only control what the elements have greater forces than we do. We don't own the land. So things like animal migration, cycle of plant life, seasons, cosmic movements that are detected from particular spatial locations. For an example, you've probably seen them, the medicine wheels, the sacred observation sites. We have many. Shiprock is one of them, the pinnacle. Environmental and ecological combination results in relationship networks with animals and the lands. All this happens on the earth we call home and live on. Hence, this is very critical to us, the sacredness of the care of the earth, its inhabitants, the animal which are under our charge, our care, is a sacred obligation in the mind of the Dene. To the Dene, this earth is so sacred that it is often referred to as Mother, the concept of Mother Earth, the source of all life, the life giver. And the sky as Father Sky concept, Yakashba is what we call it in the Navajo language, because it sustains life through the cycle of life with rain, with moisture, the weather, the seasons, and the cosmic events. That's our ties and our way of life with the lands. So let me go a little into how we use plants and animals that are very important in the Dene traditional lifeways. We have to know, as we grow older, we are taught from a very young age the knowledge of the topography, the geological depositions, the land formations, and a thorough knowledge of plants, where they are, what conditions they live in. There are certain plants that thrive only in areas that are rocky, sandy areas, in the washes and the arroyos. So we have to know what these are. We have to know their proper care, to respect and the use of specific types of plants. Many people continue to use these plants. There are many uses of plants. Beyond the agriculture, the plant, the corns, the squash, the melons, the beans, the apples, the orchards. We also continue to thrive off these, I use this very loosely, undomesticated plants and food sources that are out there in the wild. So there are many uses of these plants, their roots, their stem and leaves for food, for spices, for herbs, ceremonial properties and use. That innate culture and tradition are encompassed with spirit and balance between mind, body, and nature. That's the difference also in Western philosophy and the usage and the care of plants and animals. This balance is based on ceremonial rituals. Healing has always been connected to higher powers, the Interconnectedness, the holy people as we call them, with abundant knowledge of medicinal plants, their values. Then they believe that herbal therapy restore one's health using plant extensively for a holistic state of wellness. These are prepared as teas, as salves, oil, tinctures, herbal therapy, and these are only applied under the supervision of a traditional practitioner, a medicine man or a hatkashi, and an herbalist who is trained in this. My mother was an herbalist, so she knew a lot about it. She was also a midwife, a Navajo midwife, and she helped those in need, young ladies. And she used a lot of the plants. So that's aside from domestic produce that is being offered and used today. That they believe that the plants within the four sacred mountains are gifts from the holy people, the Interconnectedness. Recent introduced plants really have no traditional or ceremonial use. But in some cases, we have learned how to harvest those and use them. For an example, the invasive species, tamarack, cedar. The native plant knowledge and usage is sacred and should not be made public. So what I'm giving you is the very basic stuff. Wild plants, none set, are gathered for food, medicine, spiritual purposes, in everyday life of the native. An herbalist finds, in terms of gathering, an herbalist finds two of a particular species that he or she seeks and wants to pick and harvest for food, medicine, or spiritual purposes. To the largest of these two and the healthiest plants, prayers are offered. And through these prayers, we explain to the plant why its neighbor must be picked. The offering consists of shells, pollen, and other sacred material to the first plant, the healthiest one. Only what is needed then is gathered, and no more than what is necessary and needed, essentially needed. Plants are not picked randomly and wasteful. And that's where the sustainment, the continued growth and the thriving of our plants and our vegetation is very critical out there in the wild where we live. They're not picked randomly or wastefully. After its use, the plant remains. What is left over are buried with a final prayer. That's how it was done. But today, in a lot of open markets, we call it flea markets too, it's sad for me and my wife, she's sitting here by me, to see a lot of these plants, a lot of these ceremonial and herbal plants being sold, subject to deterioration, to aging, and other forms of deterioration where it loses its spirituality, its strength, while it sits there on tables. So that was a no-no. That was not supposed to have been done. So just a reminder that all ceremonial, medicinal, and ceremonial information I provide here are purposely brief. Only someone at the NA who has gone through an extensive apprenticeship with a medicine person can have access to these ceremonial information. So with that, I just gave you a brief summary of how we use, aside from domestic plants that you see along the rivers there, how we interact. Much of our animals are allowed to graze, and when we euthanize them traditionally and we butcher them, usually the medicine person will say after a ceremony, after a particular illness, to allow that person to partake of the stew, the broth, because the animal has consumed these herbal and medicinal plants. The healing works both ways, from the plants, the roots, the stem, the leaves itself, and through ingestion from to the animals. So that's a unique connection that the spirituality plays a role in. So that differs from Western society. Okay. Let me talk a little about the importance of a holistic approach to the care of animal, land, and I want to expand more on the concept of Mother Earth. The innate ties to the environment is very critical. The nature or the concept of Mother Earth and Father Sky. Yakashba, Nakashba is what we say. The four cardinal directions, which begins at birth. Traditional elders recognize that all human life form, the five-fingered ones, you and I, if we look at our hands, each hand, we have 5 fingers, or we're supposed to. Maybe because of foolishness, we might be minus some digits. But if you have extra digits, you're blessed, according to the Navajos. It's not a deformity to us. You have spiritual blessings. But we are all one in one, the 5-fingered ones on this earth. So we, the 5-fingered ones, all human life, comprise of 4 sacred elements. This is critical. Air, water, earth or land, and fire. One coexists and interconnects with one and another. If one component, for an example, the recent Goki mine spill, which I was deeply involved in on our behalf on the Navajo reservation, that was affected. So the other 3 elements were affected. Our food products, the earth, the land, which produces corn, that in return produces pollen, that is used in blessing way ceremonies and other forms of self-purification. That was disrupted. The corn husk that is used in our medicine smoke to wrap the tobacco in there. That was disrupted. The water, the earth, the fire were all disrupted. So it has to be in constant harmony. These are also commonly tied to the four directions. The east, where the Hogan is always set into with the doorway, is represented by the air. It presents protection, clarity, focus of the mind, sharp precision, and the powers of the sun. The south talks about the earth, the land, the pollens. It represents knowledge, strength, wisdom of our elders on the maternal side, the chase, the maternal grandparents. The laws, the environmental, the natural laws, the customary laws, the traditional laws, the four sacred laws that are contained within the Dene fundamental law, and personal grounding, how we teach moral and ethical teachings into our children. That is represented by the maternal grandfather. The east is represented by the mother, who is the caretaker of the Hogan and the sheep and the land. The west, it coexists with the water, and the father dwells in that. It represents the heart at its core, the emotions, the intuitions, the spirituality. He's the spiritual head of the household. The dreaming and the subconsciousness rests. A lot of spiritual stuff rests with the father. And to the north, the place of the paternal grandfather, the nullies. Fire exists within that. It represents human sexuality, passion, birth, transformation, fertility, changes in human life and the seasons, the intensity, the imaginations of the spiritual realm. That's why this is very important. That's the holistic approach when you take care of animals and land. And one of the other important concepts is the interconnectedness, which means our relationship with nature, that we are all related. The winged ones that fly, the four-legged ones, those that crawl and swim, we are all related. We are relations. We come from the same earth, the same sky, and there is no supremacy. We just control. We are just the caretakers, and our ties to the environment is critical. So how do I look as an Dene elder? How do I look what is referred to as a holistic approach? I see this as the Dene paradigm that comprises of and includes ideas of constant motion and flux that results in a spiderweb network of relationship. That's where the scientifics, the Anglo, the Western concept, different ethnic groups come in. We have a network of relationship. And in there is a constant process of transformation, deterioration, and restoration. There's existence with our relatives, you listeners out there, that consists of energy waves. I call it interrelationship, that all things being animate, space and place, renewal, and all things being imbued with spirit, the spirituality. This spirituality consists of a unique combination, an equilibrium of harmony and balance. This is what I refer to, that the Dene call it, that the Dene people refers to as Haja Nasha. In beauty I walk, in beauty I exist. That's that concept. So our ties to our relatives, to the sky, to the animals. That is the most critical concept of the Mother Earth concept. So to summarize this, how do we combine and integrate Western science with traditional ways? I do a lot of risk assessment, environmental and ecological risk assessment. Since I'm not a public health official, I haven't done much public health assessment. But these two critical components that is contained within CERCLA, within the Superfund protocols and other protocols from government agencies, I learned anew, and I've identified ways to integrate traditional knowledge into risk assessment strategies. And I've been teaching my young charges, the students, how to do that. That's very, very critical. Now, the native people, it doesn't matter what you call us, aboriginals, indigenous, that the native people, our traditional knowledge, our culture, our tradition, our values, our beliefs, and our worldviews of all people, of all plants and animals and other life forms, the earth and the sky, as distinguished from Western scientific knowledge, must be shared, must be respected and honored. And that's why I'm giving you a brief overview of how I look at things in terms of permaculture. Traditional ecological knowledge, TEK for short, is basically an cumulative body of knowledge, belief, and practice, evolving by accumulation of TEK and handed down through generations via traditional songs, stories, ceremonies, rites, prayers, and belief. See, Western science has a tendency to separate the spiritual from the carnality of what's out here. We integrate both. We cherish both. So these two combinations regard sustainability of local resources, of our plants and animals, and our direct experience of the working of the concept of Mother Earth and Father Sky, and the relationship with the social world in a holistic and inclusive form of knowledge. The earth must no longer be regarded as a commodity for man to exploit for his own gain. All I have to do is show you the concern and tell you about climate change. How much have we contributed to it because of commodity, exploitation for our gain? We must understand, we must come together and understand all creation, from the concept of mother and father to the animals, those who live in water, those who fly, that crawl, the four-legged creatures. Plant life have their own laws. They have their own rights and freedom to exist. We are all five-fingered ones, and we have a sacred obligation and a duty to respect, preserve, and protect all that was provided for us. For we are designed as stewards for these relatives, for the earth, for the sky, through our use of the sacred gift of language and thinking. It is about time we started putting this together with our non-native friends and relatives. I thank you very much. Thank you, Andy, for allowing me.
Thank you, Perry. I really appreciate all that you had to say, and am very honored that you spent your time this morning sharing your knowledge and perspective with us. So thank you very much, Perry. I appreciate it.
Okay.
So, Perry, I don't know if you need to go. I don't know if there's any questions that people might have for you, or if you were wanting to answer any questions. Are you able to stay on for questions at all?
I can see on a few minutes, yes.
Okay. Do any of the participants, do any of you have any questions for Perry?
I just want to say I really appreciate, again, everything he said, and the emphasizing our responsibility as five-fingered. I like that concept. I just really appreciate everything, and appreciate him sharing that with us.
Thank you, Elisa. Anyone else? Does anybody have any questions? We've got a couple things in chat. Just so you know, Perry, a lot of people saying thank you very much, and that they found what you had to say very moving. So thank you for joining us.
Yes, I appreciate this time, and I've been all over the Southwest, my wife and I, doing a series of workshops. It could be a couple of hours to 2 or 3 days, dwelling into the concept of traditional knowledge and how to apply it in Western research, in genetics, and in risk assessment, and also in education. So this is the first time. Farming is not my bag. I'm a rancher. So, but yet, I recommended an individual to Andy so he can expand and take off from where I left off. I talk mainly about wild plants, undomesticated plants, but we have a duty to them. So, for an example, just off the top of my head, something that is called a noxious weed, a broom snake weed. We don't look at it as a weed product. We call it so. We use it for medicinal properties to treat cuts and bites from bees, ants, wasps, even snake bites on animals. We use it for childbirth medication. If we overdose on something, some medication, it's an antidote. So the common snakeweed, we use that. We also use it in our ceremonial practices. For an example, it's a blackening material for the evil way, the holy way, the hand trembling way, that's a diagnostic tool, the enemy way ceremony for returning soldiers, the Cherakawa way, it's used as part of our prayer stick, and it's an anemic, a fumigant, and it's also a life way pollen and can be used as a dye. So what is referred to as a weed, we find purpose for it. There's a special place. It has its own rules, its own laws. It has its use. It must be respected. So those are some things that, you need to think about and appreciate and take care of our lands. Oftentimes, medicine people will go off the reservation and find these things out there in disturbed areas. And it's beginning to be harder and harder to find those and and harvesters. That's where we come in. That you have the briefest of knowledge that these are respected by other parties, other five-fingered ones, and we need to take care of the earth. We need to take care of what's around us. So I leave that with you, room for thought, and that's how we live out on the Navajo reservation. I thank you, citizens of all races, is what I said. And I appreciate your listening ear and your warm heart. Thank you again.